Get your hands on stylish t-shirts, hoodies, and more at wearbuff.com. That's WEARBUF.com. And make sure to use the promo code TWB at checkout for 20% off your first order. Stay Buffalo proud with Wear Buff. The Buffalo Bills survive the Baltimore Ravens, and I lose another 10 years off my life. This week on the Wandering Buffalo podcast.
You're now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your host, Justin Goddard.
Bills Mafia, welcome into another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show on the Buffalo FamBase podcast network. My name is Justin, and I am your host. And right off the top, happy Victory Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you're getting this in your feed. Tale of two halves again. Kind of casual first half. Just kind of watching the game was never not filled with anxiety because I've been in a lot of these games with the Bills, and I know the things that can kind of happen. So for this episode, I just want to kind of start with the end of game sequence against the Ravens, and starting with the Bills' second to last offensive possession, right down inside like the 2-3 yard line. Not able to punch it in. The quarterback draw play called for Allen. Didn't love that. For, game on the line type play calling. Everybody knows the ball is going to be in Josh Allen's hands. For me, I make it an even more difficult decision on fourth down if you don't get it, but I'm doing the tush push there. You've had so much success with it. You got Josh Allen. You know how hard he works to get into the end zone, and I don't know, just taking it from a shotgun snap and starting out 5-6 yards behind the line of scrimmage. There's a lot I didn't like about that play, and then I don't know if it was baked into the play, but you see Josh's back kind of go to the defense and, kind of thank God maybe that they had him all wrapped up, because I don't know if it was cooked into the play. Pun not intended, but it worked. Definitely looked like he was going to try to flip that to James Cook. And like I said, maybe that was built into it of like, hey, if you get stuffed, you got an outlet there, see if it's available. But that gave me like immediate, like, Houston Texans playoffs trauma brought right back. And then McDermott has the tough call on fourth down of, are we going to go for this and really seal the win, or are we going to take the points to go up 8 with a field goal? And for what it's worth, I know that this decision would have been all we talked about until next season started, had the Ravens come away with a win here. If they're able to tie it up, take it to overtime, win in overtime, it would have been all off season that McDermott was playing scared, and he, should have gone for it. For what it's worth, and this would have been my decision before the benefit of hindsight, I also would have taken the points there. You're only up 5. The Baltimore Ravens defense, their offense, you haven't really done anything to stop them in the second half. And, we know what ends up happening. They go 88 yards and score a touchdown. So, like, granted, you could have had them start, like, at the 1 yard line if you didn't convert. But, I mean, if they went 88 yards like nothing, then good chance they were going to go for 99 yards like nothing. So for me, that was the correct decision, the correct risk assessment of, even if they score a touchdown here, they also have to convert the 2-point conversion just to tie it to take it to overtime versus if they go down the field and score, then they have the lead. And, you know, everything, is the butterfly effect there. And, we do end up seeing Baltimore score a touchdown and Mark Andrews happens to drop the 2-point conversion that would have tied the game up. Can't, for what it's worth, can't put that all on Mark Andrews. That ball was kind of thrown knee level as Andrews is falling away into the end zone. Um, pretty routine pitch and catch, should have been a bit of a better throw from Lamar Jackson. So they miss on the 2-point conversion, and there's I honestly enjoyed that for like a half a breath. And then my mind immediately goes to like all of the trauma that the Bills have given us over the years. And immediately I went from, half a breath of, holy shit, we've won the game to, oh my, we still have to cover an onside kick. And if they are able to have a successful onside kick, they're about 10 yards out of field goal range, and that's all they need to win it. And, you know, you go down the whole rabbit hole of like, well, maybe they would miss the kick. And, Justin Tucker has had his struggles this season, but one of the greatest kickers of all time, if not, the greatest. And I was just tail spinning. So shout out to Rasul Douglas for covering that kick and, just kind of thinking about the pressure in that moment of, you know, being a hero in Buffalo or being, another footnote in all the stories of the terrible ways that we've lost, living in infamy. So able to get it done. Very stressful. We get to move on to Kansas City, but do want to spend a little time on this game. And, typically I start with the offense. The offense is the real strong suit of this team. The defense has been, a little up and down this year. And for me, the defense was the story of this game. And when we talk about complementary football, I think the offense kind of dropped the ball for the team, in particular in the second half. But this was a game that was a story of turnovers and, really the way the defense played the game allowed the offense to play kind of this mistake-free clock management style of play, which it's not a favorite style of game to watch when you have Josh Allen. But the way the defense was able to take the ball away allowed the offense to lean into the running game and have one of the more productive games on the ground against the Ravens. So starting out with the turnovers, we had the Taylor Rapp interception. I mean, honestly, nothing too crazy there. It was kind of just being around the ball. I believe it was Matt Milano applies some pressure on Lamar Jackson, and he just hangs one out there. And not a good throw, not a good decision. And for the Bills offensive side of things, I think that was kind of the game plan of let's force them to make mistakes and we're not going to make mistakes. And that can be enough to win the game. We're going to key in on stopping, this high-powered run game of the Ravens and kind of dare Lamar to be the one to beat us. And for what it's worth, that game plan did work. It's just not a great recipe for really burying teams and putting them away and putting the game, out of reach. But it is a formula to win games. And how often do we talk about like the Chiefs winning ugly and it coming down to a last play and, just finding a way to win? Granted, I think they do get the most officiating help in the league, but that's that's something we'll pay attention to next week. But I did kind of like that we were able to win this game without asking Allen to do a ton. And like I said, that started with the defense. So Rap gets the turnover. I believe we didn't get any points off of that, so that was something that I didn't like. We had Damar Hamlin on a safety blitz get a strip sack on Lamar, and honestly, I feel like this one was more Lamar than, Damar Hamlin forcing the strip. I think he had a nice clean sack, which is impressive enough on Lamar Jackson, but he really only had him like by one leg. And kind of as he's swinging to the ground, Lamar like goes to catch himself and kind of just sets the ball down. Von Miller able to scoop it up and take it back for a big, nice return and, set the Bills up with good field position. And then the final turnover being the biggest one, maybe the biggest moment of the game. And, the Baltimore Ravens are pressing down the field. Again, second half, they're kind of moving through the Bills defense like a knife through butter. And Mark Andrews gets a nice catch. It's a big gain. And Tyrell Bernard comes up with a huge play, punching that ball out. And let's not get it twisted here. He took a calculated risk on that play, and he was not going for the tackle at all. And if he's not able to punch that ball out, they're getting a huge gain going down the field. So, he's able to complete that play. It's something that we've seen from Bernard just being, super effective, having big moments, making these splash plays. And when the Bills defense needed it most, he came away with it. Want to kind of use that to transition into the linebacker play in general. Love what I saw from Matt Milano out here in this game. And this is kind of going back to last week as well. Him coming back from the injury, he didn't quite feel like himself. And then, has a subsequent groin injury. And, we're ending the season talking about, does he really give you the best chance to win, or is it Dorian Williams right now? And over the past 2 weeks, he's looked like he's playing more confident, playing free, playing instinctual. You still see the missed tackles in there from him. That for anyone that's, watching thinking that has to do with the injuries or that's something new for him, he's always had his share of missed tackles. It's the impact plays that he's able to make that kind of make him special. And I think this has been the game where I saw him playing like the most free, the most kind of like taking the thought out of it, and that half tick where he's like diagnosing it's gone, and he's triggering on plays and playing loose. I think the defense, as I kind of already mentioned, keyed in on stopping the run. Kind of the storyline was, can they stop Derrick Henry? Can they stop Lamar? Can they stop this high-powered rushing offense? Media talking about the little guys on the Bills, and McDermott was even asked about it right before the game. And, kind of, I think his answer was just like, we'll see. And it was kind of a cold answer and probably some extra motivation for this team. But when you talk about a dude in Derrick Henry that's, torched the whole league this year, combined with Lamar Jackson's ability, this was my biggest concern going into the game, and it was kind of like, I know Lamar Jackson is a talented passer of the football. I know that, he has some weapons. It was a little less of an arsenal without Zay Flowers in the game. But I still kind of thought that the best path to winning this game was stopping that run and making Lamar Jackson beat you, and that it's kind of leaning into the confidence that I have in our secondary, in particular with, Taron Johnson, Christian Benford, Rasul Douglas, and I think the most important part of shutting down the run was, giving the opportunity to kind of stay on script, having it be a Bills favorable script, and limiting the amount of times that they're able to just turn around and give it to Henry. We go into this game 21-10 at half, and in a game where I'm sure they would have just loved to have the success that they were used to with Henry and gave it to him 30 times and run all over us. And he ends up, 16 carries, 84 yards. Honestly, ends up being we had a tougher time with Justice Hill. He had 6 carries for 50 yards. Hold Lamar to 6 carries for 39 yards. And then Mark Andrews with a couple tush pushes there. So I think that not only were you able to limit what they did in the run game, I think the bigger thing was kind of keeping this a pro Bills script in limiting the amount of times that you had to deal with it. And I think that's huge. I think Derrick Henry's a guy that gets better as the game goes on. The more carries he gets, he's an absolute unit. How many times do you want to have to tackle him in 8 degrees snow, dark nighttime? Like, you kind of were able to take care of business enough in the first half that you didn't have to deal with a ton of it as the game went on. So kudos to the Bills for being able to kind of mitigate that and then kind of let the rest of the game come as it was. Um, Kind of moving to the offensive side of the ball, not a, super highlight day. Not what I was expecting out of this game. I didn't go into the game, expecting the Bills to have such a focus on the run game. Certainly didn't expect them to be, right on pace with the Ravens for rushing yards. But total rushing yards, the Bills have 147, the Ravens have 176. And what I did like about this game, it was kind of a plus and minus of, you know, going into your second playoff game. This is, this battle of the MVPs and all the storylines going into this game. And, Josh Allen ends up 16 of 22, 127 yards. Not much going on in the passing game. In particular from the receivers, we saw Shakir have 6 catches on 7 targets for 67 yards. But then the two that I particularly look at is between Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper, a total of 3 targets. Coleman gets, the shot play against Trey White, which is called a pass interference. Glad it went our way because I'm not sure that was pass interference. It was kind of another game with some poor officiating. There were calls that were missed and wrong going both ways. I'm not really sure which way the advantage goes. I think of like that play against Trey White. I don't think is a flag. But then you have the phantom holding call against Deion Dawkins that we've seen a few times this year. It's a super fundamental, clean snatch trap. Basically using the defender's leverage to let them get into your pads and then take their momentum and let them face plant. And it's such a beautiful play. It's like elite level tackle play that for some reason he keeps getting flagged on, and I don't know. The NFL really needs to figure out something about that. Um, but that was on a play where we gained something like 10 yards. The flag puts us at 2nd and 22. Then we get them to jump offside, 2nd and 17. We're not able to do anything with the ball. And it goes from, you know, a nice positive gain to super behind the sticks. The Bills end up punting it, and you know that that it's a drive killer. So, anyways, tangent there about the officiating. I felt like this was a game where we had some favorable matchups for the outside receivers, and you know they end up for Coleman and Cooper combined 3 targets, 1 catch for 5 yards. So a little concerning as we move on to the Chiefs game, but this is where it's kind of the double side coin for me of having a different way to win. And you hear the cliches all the time, like there's no style points in the playoffs. You don't, get an extra win because you scored 40, anything like that. And being able to pivot and lean into the run game, and not even really pivot, it was just kind of what they did, and the passing game was kind of just used in moments to, get a first down or whatever. But there's been so many times in the past where it's Josh Allen, and Josh Allen is the run game. And if you're having success on the ground, it's because he carried the ball 13 times. And in this game, they were able to lean into the running backs and, you know, lean into an opportunistic defense and be able to come away with the win. And it's an ugly win, and it's closer than you'd like it to be. But on a day where they didn't get much production from Josh Allen, whether it was game plan or just how things were shaking out, they're able to win in a different way. And that kind of encourages me going forward, because when we for me, it's a conversation all year long about the Chiefs and how they're winning games, right? And they're winning close games. It comes down to the last play, and they have to get these, blocked field goals or a pass interference call or whatever the case may be. Of these games for the Chiefs all come down to the final moments, and they find a way to win. What I'm guessing is going to happen next week against the Chiefs is it's going to come down to the final moments, and it's going to be which team finds a way to win a close game ugly. And in years past, I would put a supreme advantage to the Chiefs. And with this iteration of the Bills team, I think there's a scrappiness. There's a multi-dimensional approach that they can use, and I think they're better set up to win the close games, win the ugly games in different ways than they have been in the past. Um, so while it feels concerning for this game, I think it also is a little bit promising as we look forward in the playoffs. So, speaking of the playoffs, some storylines going into this game, obviously. we know the Chiefs have been kind of the Bills' kryptonite, keeping us from, making playoff runs, taking us out of the playoffs right before the Super Bowl. But for the Bills in this game, it's not just, conquering their demons. It's keeping the Chiefs from, going after a three-peat Super Bowl. You're the only team that stands in their way. Not only that, Chiefs have an opportunity to be, 1 year closer to the only team to being a team that makes it to 4 consecutive Super Bowls. I know that's kind of a plus minus stat for the Bills, getting there 4 years in a row, but we never won one. But I feel like it's something that we've been able to hang our hat on, at least, of, yeah, we might not have ever won one, but what the teams did were still impressive in being the only team that was able to do it. It's not, some sort of record that I'm super passionate about keeping. I'd trade it all for one Super Bowl tomorrow. But using that as motivation, just another extra little storyline of finding a way to come out and beat this Chiefs team. And we've said it all year, the Chiefs kind of have their vulnerabilities. I also feel like we said that for like the past 4 years. And like I said, they keep finding ways to win games. So, you get a classic showdown between Mahomes and Allen, like we've seen so many times. I think this game, I think there's a good chance it looks a lot more like this game we just played against the Ravens than it does the 13 seconds game where there was like 90 points scored. I think Kansas City is leaning a little bit more into their defense this year. The Bills kind of leaning into that ball control game, moving the ball on the ground, defense, forcing turnovers. So I don't expect, 40-something points on each side. I expect this to be another game kind of in the mid-20s that comes down to who gets the ball last. So, great win for the Bills. Glad to survive in advance. Like I said, no style points in the playoffs. You just got to get to the next game. I think these types of wins are like really the money wins for Sean McDermott, where you get to celebrate the win with the guys, and then you get right back to work and you put on the film. And there's a ton to clean up in this game. There's a ton left on the table, a lot of meat on the bone, a lot of mistakes, a lot of just like I said, ugly play. But I mean, you're able to have all of that and come away with a win and put yourself, one win away from making a Super Bowl appearance. So, kudos to the Bills on the win. Like I said, it's another one that took a bunch of years off my life. It gives the, Bills winning one Super Bowl before I die a whole different meaning when they take 10 years off my life every playoff game. But hey, like I said, one game away. Hopefully we're able to take down the Chiefs and make it to the Super Bowl. Make sure you like, share, subscribe so you're not missing any episodes coming out talking about these games. Also, make sure you check out the website, wanderingbuff.com. I mentioned this a couple times over the last few weeks. We've added a writer, Mike. He's been putting out articles each week. Jake's putting out articles. We got the merch shop up there if you want to support the pod that way. It's always appreciated. So check it out, wanderingbuff.com. Make sure you're subscribed so you're not missing any episodes. And we will be back next week, hopefully talking about a Chiefs win. A Bills win over the Chiefs. Let's make that very clear. Until then, and as always, go Bills.